tranquil. We're working on that main track. We'll have it ready for you this coming Wednesday with the first race post of 1:20 p.m. But plenty to talk about. And welcome to this latest edition of the National Racing Report on MSG+. We hope you had a terrific Belmont Stakes Day. It's Jason Blewett, Andy Serling, Richard Migliori. History, guys. A long time coming, but it was made here on Saturday. Still pumped up the morning after.
There's nobody here at Belmont Park in the grandstand, but I think you can still hear the noise from the crowd from yesterday.
It was a wonderful day, and I'm going to apologize in advance for my voice. The 14-year-old in me that watched Affirmed came out, and I became a fan again and got to rooting the last eighth of a mile, even though I know I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to be neutral, right?
Supposed to be neutral. I think he looked pretty good the last eighth of a mile.
He looked good in the last eighth, and my voice, and I was happy when I got up today. It sounds much better than it did on last night's Belmont Insider with the MIG, but that spontaneous cheering, this place, 90,000 erupted. One of the greatest moments in my life, and we've got a lot of ground to cover on tonight's show, of course, as we recap American Pharoah's 1-4 and winning the Triple Crown. And let's begin here as we get on to the Belmont Stakes, the 147th running, presented by DraftKings. A bit of a, I don't want to call it a slow start, but American Pharoah was not smooth out of the gate, Mig.
He took a little step back right before the start, and then he kind of had to catch himself. But he's such an athlete, and he's so got kind of like a cat-like reflex to him. He was able to just pick up right away, and Victor wasn't wasting any time. He was going.
And he was sort of the opposite of Materiality, who was the horse who could have challenged him early. Materiality, he broke okay. He just didn't come out with any verve, you know, and Johnny kind of asked him, and they weren't going fast early, which obviously worked in American Pharoah's favor, but I don't think it was because Materiality didn't try to get up next to him. It seems to me that Materiality was kind of dull.
And actually, I spoke with Johnny Velasquez in the jockey's room after the Belmont, and he said that. He goes, I was trying to get him up closer to him, and he just wasn't taking me there. And he actually said when he turned down the backside, he kind of slipped behind a couple times. He just wasn't the same horse.
He was awful. I mean, he was dead last in here, but it's not just that he finished dead last. I mean, one thing, if he got involved, and they got into a chase, and the pace was fast, and he was chasing him, and you tire from chasing a monster out there, and you see horse from last. He was chasing a very tepid pace in here, which, once again, it works in American Pharoah's favor, but he just couldn't keep up with him at all. Frost, on the other hand, he was in the bit. He ran very well in here, but I think he shows how good American Pharoah is.
He got a really good trip, Frosted, to be second. American Pharoah's galloping here, and this is what you were talking about, Jason, just how efficient he is.
And his stride did not waver for a second. I mean, even turning for home, it didn't dissipate for a millisecond. Just smooth, effortless, and efficient. It was amazing.
I would argue he got more efficient as they were going down the stretch, and once Victor let him go, and you could sense he was going to probably win. Keen Ice ran very well in here. He actually covered 50 more feet than the winner and 46 more than Frost did if you look at Trackus. And I'm not saying he's supposed to win. He should have been second, because first of all, you'll see Ken, he's all the way on the outside, moving in his second or third here. Ken will give up on him in a few seconds, the 5/16th ball. I thought he was going to finish last. He comes back for third. He was chasing wide the whole time. The pace wasn't that fast, but he was a little bit closer than I think a lot of us expected. You see right here, I think he's giving up on him.
But, you know, sometimes you feel like as a rider, you've asked, the horse has kind of stopped responding, and then maybe he just, you know, felt like, okay, well, now he's giving me more. I'm going to ride him hard again. But getting back to the winner, it looked like every time Victor Espinoza moved a finger, the horse was responsive. And I think that's one of the things that makes American Pharoah so good and why he gets good trips. He's so responsive to the rider. He doesn't get rank, but he has speed. So you can use him and put your hands down, and he'll come back to you instead of asking him and have him run off.
He's a better horse than these horses, especially in this race. And I think, listen, I mean, I'm pretty harsh. I'd like to see him get over it, have some trouble, and get past it, and win one of these big races to be tough. But the fact is that what he's accomplished, and you talk about the 37 years, and the fact that nobody's been able to win it, and there's been some bad luck here and there, but it can't all just be bad luck. It's a very, very difficult thing to achieve. And the fact that he comes in this Belmont Stakes, and he seems as strong, if not stronger than he was at the beginning, That's a pretty remarkable feat for any horse, Richie.
Well, again, it speaks to his constitution. Not only do you have to be super talented, you have to be durable enough to go through this grind, and he was still fresh to do this. So let me ask you a question. The fact that he won the Triple Crown, does that make him considered great?
I don't know. I have a lot of trouble with the word great. I'm very tough about those things. It's a great accomplishment. But, I was talking to Jason about it earlier. look at the last two Triple Crown winners. Affirmed and Alydar. Affirmed and Alydar belong in some sort of glass box somewhere, untouchable, because it was this incredible three-race series between three amazing horses that were super fast, that just showed up and fought each other every time. I would compare his Triple Crown achievement to Seattle Slew. I would argue he actually beat a better field in the Kentucky Derby than Seattle Slew beat. But I would argue this field, Run Dusty Run, who's behind Slew, a similar type achievement. And while Seattle Slew was obviously a very great horse, he proved it as a 4-year-old in those races, in those incredibly memorable performances. Now, that's not going to happen this day of age, but I don't think I should criticize American Fair because of that. But I really do want to see him finish up the year, and let's see what he does in the Breeders' Cup Classic against some older horses before we make a final determination. What's the rush?
Well, I think there will be eventually a time and place to see where he ultimately lands and deserves to be placed among the sport's greatest. But no doubt on Saturday, one of the greatest feats in my personal life that I've seen in all of sports.
Yeah, do you think it's what it says fair, Richie, too?
No, I think it's very fair. I mean, my reaction is I think any horse that can do this, you got to consider great. But I understand your point. But I also think that the comparison to Seattle Slew is extremely accurate. And also, Seattle Slew did not get the credit through the Triple Crown. People did not consider him great after the Triple Crown. And then in hindsight, or after.
Well, with the benefit of his 4-year-old year, which included some bumps. It's not like he won every race.
Well,
but it was a loss that cemented his greatness.
Well, that's it. When he got beat in the Jockey Cup Gold Cup to Exceller, that's when everybody said, "Wow, he's great." It's interesting. I think American Pharaoh's great, but I understand the point that maybe we're going to see even better things in the next 4 or 5 months, hopefully.
Right. We hope that's the case, because if you're Ahmed Zayat, you're Bob Baffert, and Bob Sunday morning was on the record, whether this is hyperbole or not. Bob was very even-keeled and very relaxed throughout the entire 5 weeks. He said, if I had to run this horse back in 3 weeks, I'd be able to. I mean, he was bright, alert, happy, out of the barn with reporters. It sounds like he's come out of the race just ready to go again.
And I think they want to make this something that's special. They understand. I mean, you can only ask the horse to do what he can do.
Sure.
But in order for this, people talk about this being great for the sport. In order for it to be truly great for the sport, and I'm not trying to be unrealistic, he's got to run a few more times, bring the fans out at the track, and keep the attention on him and the game. And I think that the connections understand that responsibility, and if they can do it with this horse, they will.
Well, if they understand that responsibility as much as we believe they do, then they've got to run in the Travers in Saratoga, because it's the greatest racing city with the greatest racing fans, and he's going to garner more attention there than anywhere else.
I'm making my reservations for dinner right now.
Okay,
you ought to.
Here.
Yeah. I don't know what date the Travers is.
There,
it's late August. Did you do?
29th?
It's very late this year.
29th, I think, yeah.
Well, you're
Travers,
Saratoga's
Breeders' Cup
sons.
Classic, and then just walk him down Versailles Road to Stud, have a big parade.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if he runs in those races and he culminates in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and there's some very good older horses, and we'll talk about one in particular very soon, that will cement his legacy. But right now, I think we all should and we will enjoy what we saw.
Right. Let's give some credit and acknowledgement to Hall of Fame trainer Bob Baffert, who amazingly got his 4th crack at taking down the Triple Crown. So close at 97, even closer in 98 with that heartbreaking loss, War Emblem, whatever. But I mean, the job he did with American Pharaoh, I mean, this is one of the greatest training jobs of my lifetime off that 2-year-old season.
I think we have a tendency sometimes to not give the credit to some of these guys that we should, and it's good that you brought it up, because I could not agree more.
Modern-day Ben Jones.
All right. We have Honor Code to talk about, the Naira.com, Met Mile, an electrifying late run. That's right, we did run the Met Mile on Belmont Stakes Day. A very impressive win. We'll talk about it when we come back. Back to Belmont Park, Big Sandy, the test of the champion. It did not slow down nor stop American Pharaoh, despite all those Dash Triple Crown dreams in the long stretch over the last near 40 years. It's Jason Blewett, Andy Serling, Richard Migliori, and lost in the hubbub, and it's kind of a shame in a way. Well, not by us. We'll give it its due. How about Honor Code winning the Naira.com Met Mile on Saturday?
We were talking about it before. Richie was teasing me about the Belmont Stakes, but we all acknowledge the single best actual performance on the racetrack was in the Met Mile by Honor Code.
Yeah, I mean, this race was amazing. It looked like it was going to be a Met Mile for the ages, and I believe it delivered.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more. This is a sensational race.
Let's go to the start without further ado. World-class field, no shared belief. We had nearly everybody else, including a Belmont winner, a Breeders' Cup Classic winner, a Wood winner, and let's do it at the gate.
We're going to show the head-on afterwards. Byron stumbles, and he comes in, and he eliminates particularly Wicked Strong. Tonalist took the worst of it, some of it, too. Honor Code was fortunate that he broke outside of it, and it gave him a clean trip. But, man, when he gets that big stride going, it's awesome how impressive he is in winning. But let's give a little love to Private Zone, too. He is one heck of a racehorse.
He really is. I mean, you had to think with those fractions, the pressure he was under, he was going to wilt at some point, and he hung in there extremely game. I mean, I thought his performance was terrific. Obviously, Tonalist, he was compromised at the start. We talked about that off camera. Honor Code, though, has this ability to pick his horses. He's last right now, but he picks up horses so quickly. It's such an eye-catching move. I'm going, wow, is this a Rozzy in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile?
Well, we were watching the race out here, and you saw the 3/16 pole as he tipped outside, and you see him. And I mean, you can see him, and we'll watch him move, just running faster than everybody else and powering by everybody. And he actually gets so far in front, he's eased up a little towards the late in the race, and Tonalist closes the gap a little. Now, Tonalist is making a wide move. His trip didn't do him any favors after the trouble, tipping him wide, getting him in there. But he also had the misfortune of running against a horse that put in a tremendous performance.
Well, Tonalist is a little different type of horse, too. A little bit more of a grinder, a horse that kind of keeps coming, where Honor Code's got that acceleration.
Look at this run. This, to me, reminded me a little bit of Ghost Zapper's Fosberg, where he was out of the picture, and he appears in the picture top of the stretch and decimates the competition. What's more impressive about this one, and I think Ghost Zapper's one of the all-time greats, we'll watch this, is he was beating a better field. There goes bump. He goes stumble, bump, slams Wicked Strong, tightens things up on Tonalist as well as the 5, Tommy is.
Yeah, Wicked Strong and Tonalist are horses that tend to break just okay. They don't break, really sharp. And actually, Honor Code broke very sharp yesterday. And I think when you get a horse that seems to have a problem leaving the gate straight in Byron, it kind of, they become a victim.
Right.
And I think Wicked Strong took the worst of that, although Tonalist was compromised as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. They weren't beating Honor Code, but obviously it helped them do that. And listen, you don't want to see anybody at compromise to start. We'd like to rerun it and see what happens if they all broke cleanly. As far as Byron, and as you know, I'm one of Byron's biggest fans. This is the second time this break thing is becoming a problem for him. He broke like that, and then he chased Private Zone, but he was done around the turn. I don't know if he can run anymore.
Yeah. And his acts and his woes out of the starting gate, it's getting old.
I agree.
Because when he shows up and he's on his A game, just go back to last year's Woody Stevens, he is one of the most talented, raw talent horses in all of training.
He's a great talent. There's no doubt about it. How about Shug McGahee? Had never won the Met Mile. And you think of some of the horses we've seen him running there, with Easy Goer running in it, with the entry of Dancing Spree and Seeking the Gold. He has run some great horses in this race. He finally gets it done. I love this horse.
Well, you could see it meant a lot to him. I got to speak to him after the race, and he said, I've held this race in such high regard for so many years. It's just great to finally get one. And I think a very deserving horse to get it with, and a horse that could definitely fill the shoes of AP Indy, who's pensioned now as a stallion.
Oh, no, he's going to be a sexy sire. And, we wanted him to run in this race for such a long, long time. And, this was one opinion that we were sort of universally agreed on. This is a one-turn horse.
Right.
And they took a shot in the Alley Sheba. And at that time, there was talk that Shared Belief was going to be running in this race. And maybe they were a little worried about running against him. They were going to point for Stephen Foster. And I'm so glad the Alley Sheba didn't work out. And they brought him back and ran him in the race that he was born to run in.
That brings up an intriguing point, though, or at least some interesting fodder concerning Honor Code as one of the best horses currently in training. Where do you go off the win in Saturday's Met?
It's an odd situation. See, normally they could take a shot in the Whitney, and if it didn't work out, they could turn him back 4 weeks later in the Forgo. The Forgo's now being run on the Traverse Day card, so it's 3 weeks after the Whitney, so it becomes more problematic. So I think they have to make a decision what they're going to do with this horse, and it's even worse because the Breeders' Cup mile and 70 yards is being run around 2 turns at Keeneland, and it's just a bad race for him. I mean, he may win it or not. Do they run in the Forgo? Do they figure out what they're doing? Do they run the Forgo and point for the Met, the Cigar Mile at the end of the year? I don't know.
It's interesting. He mentioned 2 races, potentially Suburban, potentially Whitney. But he also said this is a horse that he thinks needs a lot of time between races. He says he runs his best races either off a layoff or when he has a lot of spacing. So that would kind of keep him from trying the Whitney, and if it doesn't work out, back in the Forgo.
No, I think but I think they would think about the Whitney. It's 2 months later, not the
absolutely.
Suburban at a mile and a quarter.
Right, but the point being not back in the Forgo.
No, no question about it. Even if it was 4 weeks, they might not have done it.
But there was something satisfying. We like Honor Code with Shug McGahee, that old school horsemanship, and making all the right moves with this horse and being patient. It all paid off and worked out perfectly for that winner's share of the $1.25 million purse. 3-year-old fillies, no fewer than 11 in another race, another Grade 1 on Saturday, in which the start needs to be talked about. It was a disaster.
No, we're going to talk about it afterwards and let Richie talk about what By the Moon and Jose Ortiz did, and a lot of the field got compromised. But the winner took the absolute worst of it, along with Bar of Gold. Now, Bar of Gold ran very well to recover and finish 6th. The winner here, Carlina, just ran a remarkable race.
Incredible. The fact that she could even get back in the race and then still have enough left to finish the deal and win, I thought it was a sensational performance. And as bad as she was compromised, she got right back in the fray.
Amazing. She rushes back into it. She's chasing wide the whole way, and she still manages to run down By the Moon, who had the advantage of causing that and got a good trip after that. Maybe moved a little prematurely in here, but it doesn't matter. She was at best second best, and I'm going to argue Bar of Gold could have been closer. Wonder Gal got a great ride by Gary Stevens, and I liked her, and she ran well, but she got caught a little between horses in kind of an uncomfortable spot in the stretch.
Yeah, I think she was. Yeah, I thought she had a great trip, and if she had a little more acceleration, she might have been able to get out of that spot. She just ran well and just was third best on the day. By the Moon, I agree with you, might have moved a bit premature, but she had already bothered several horses in the race.
Well, another horse that she bothered was Condo Commando. She took her out of the race, and Condo Commando's back to almost last early. She can't overcome that. Now, Condo Commando, we still want to see her. I feel bad with Condo Commando because I wanted to see her in this race and see what she could do in a fairly run race, and you have to just completely dismiss this effort.
Right. But you're going, I've got to assume if she comes out okay, you're looking at races like the Test with Condo Commando.
I'm sure Mike Dubb would love to be participating in them. I doubt they're going to be looking to stretch her out. But then again, she can go longer, and maybe in a longer race she can control the pace. So they have to keep their options open and take a look at a race like the Coachy Club American Oaks.
Well, but you made a good point. If she comes out of it, let's keep an eye on By the Moon, who is number 3. As she breaks out, and she continues to come out, and to me, you don't see any effort on the part of the rider to try to straighten her up and correct her. And it makes that accordion effect with the horses on the outside.
The 8 came in a little bit.
The 8 came in a little bit, but now when that horse floats out as much as she did, it squeezes everybody up in the middle and actually shook up Clipped Heels. And you made a good point. If she comes out of it all right, well, Shook Up was vanned off after the race, after she clipped heels because of the incident at the start. So there are ramifications beyond the effect in the race. Horses get injured when things like that happen.
Absolutely. We've seen it happen on a number of occasions in different races. And the other thing is, Jose Ortiz has no problem looking over his shoulder repeatedly during horse races. He never even takes a look at the start.
Yeah, well, you know what? You didn't even have to look. You can feel when your horse is going, going left or right like that, and you have to make some sort of an effort. But we go back to this. It's up to the stewards to lay down the law as far as what pertains what's okay out of the gate. Right now, it's the Wild West because they said, well, it was at the break. That's nonsense. You've got 2 reins. You can control a horse better than that.
All right, fair enough. We'll see if he gets days. For Todd Pletcher, this was ACORN victory number 3. Coincidentally, his first Grade 1 win with Jersey Girl came in the ACORN back in 1998. And for Hall of Famer John Velasquez, his 4th career win in the ACORN. And how about the Hall of Fame riding talent on Saturday? It was pretty neat in the room having Johnny V, Mike Smith, Kent DeSormo, and Gary Stevens.
It's just an incredible array of talent around here as far as riders, trainers, and obviously horses on the racetrack. Todd Pletcher had a very dichotomous day.
Indeed he did. There were many highs, many lows. Let's move on to Wedding Toast, who upset Untappable in the Grade 1 $1 million Ogden Phipps. Little redemption for Godolphin and Kieran McLaughlin. They had gotten so close a year ago in this race at a big price with Antipathy. Wedding Toast did not have any traffic woes, doled out her speed perfectly, did Jose Lascano, and she was terrific.
Jose's at the top of his game. He's been riding extraordinarily well. I mean, he's a rider that we think is a lot of anyway, but he's really consistently been good. Does everything right with her, as you say, doling out her speed. Untappable runs okay to be second. Untappable is yet to get back to her good 3-year-old form, though.
No, we haven't seen it. The only thing I will say in her defense here is just she was very game to be second. It looked like she was going to be beat for second. She dug in. I agree with you about Jose Lezcano, and he's added something to his arsenal. He is being more aggressive, putting horses on the lead. I think he was always a good rider. I think he's taken it to another level.
This is a very good time to be a rider that's not afraid to go to the lead.
No, guys, we see whether you're talking about the main track, the Widener, or the Inner, one paceless race after another. How many horses win either on the lead or maybe getting that first over outside trip in the clear?
Well, we're going to talk about paceless races when we come back, because I think we're going to show the Just a Game, the Longines Just a Game.
All right, good-looking 5-year-old mare by Street Sense in the Ogden Phipps. We march, just like the crew in the Woody Stevens, towards the finish line on this edition of the Racing Report. Back on the Racing Report, beautiful Belmont Park, a 12th Triple Crown winner on Saturday, and glad you're with us. It's the MiG, it's Andy, it is JB. Let's get to another Grade 1 stake on that Saturday card. Over the last decade, this Longines Grade 1 700K Just a Game has turned into be just a can't-miss stop in this division.
No, it is. It's been a fun race, and Street Mark was able to control. She wasn't good enough in this day. Tepin, she legitimized her win at Churchill with a very perfect trip win. Falimbi was just unlucky. It wasn't Joel Rosario's fault. He actually got her in the game at a slow pace, but because it was slow in the field bunch, she couldn't get out until it was too late, Richie.
And I think Joel Rosario found something out about Falimbi last time. You can't use that run prematurely because she will hang. So he's trying to do the right thing, stay covered up, make one quick brush. But when they go 24-4, 49-2, and it's beyond me going into the race, if you'd have told me they went that slow, I would have said, there's no way, not in the Just a Game here, not in the mile. It was just ridiculously slow, and the field stays bunched up. And that being said, the first 6 horses are covered by about 4 lengths.
Yeah, and that's the way a lot of horse racing is. But I got to tell you, if I'm a trainer, I'm looking at, I'm just getting rabbits. I'm just getting horses that can go faster early, and I'm opening these up. Not the rabbit that ran in New York when the 7-pound apprentice raided her and tried to win the race with the rabbit and completely ruined the chances of her entry mate to win, but that's another story for another day. But actual rabbits that go out and become pace setters and make it fair for everybody.
Have a pacemaker. I said this yesterday. Maybe Honor Code needs a pacemaker. You know, like if they go 2 turns,
he had
maybe.
One yesterday.
Well, he did. He did, but an uncoupled one, right? But maybe, like we all think he's a 1-turn horse, and I feel that way as well. I'm getting back to Arnico briefly, but the point being about the rabbits, maybe he'll get 2 turns if he gets legitimate pace in a 2-turn race.
Right. I don't think any of us are saying he can't win a race like the Whitney at 2 turns, and Shug wants to find out. He wasn't happy with him, and Church will get back to that. But we're saying he's better around 1 turn, and that's one of the reasons I like 1-turn races.
Fair enough. Sure. I get the slow pace on the Widener, and they were crawling. Let's give some credit to Tepin, though, who's come back as a 4-year-old. Perfect 3 for 3 on the year for Mark Cassie, and Julian Leperoux was up.
Is this Mark Cassie's first Grade 1 winning turf race in the U.S.? I think it might be.
Might just be. We'll have to look that up. He's a good trainer, a big string up at Woodbine, and he shipped in and got the cash in the Just a Game. On to the 114th running of the Knob Creek Manhattan. What kind of ride, pink cap, yellow sleeves, did Irad Ortiz put forth on Slumber?
This is a sensational ride. Saves ground. Obviously, the sea opens up for him to get through, but this was a great ride, and it's a very interesting case study in the opposite kind of trips, and why we talk about trips and trap. This horse that was hung out to dry at Churchill Downs in that race, never a chance to get a comfortable rhythm, never a chance to get a breather and save some ground. He gets the opposite trip here, saves ground, comes out, and he buried this field.
Yeah, he did bury this field. He looked a lot like his father streaking through the stretch. Yeah, Seek.
Yep.
And now let's give a little love to Big Blue Kitten, who was compromised by his slow pace, didn't kind of get to work out the perfect trip he got to work out last time, and still finished well to be second.
He just shows up and he runs well every time, and then it just goes on to give a little love to Chad Brown. They bought this horse for $200,000, I think, somewhere around that at a racing age sale. This is a horse that Juddmonte, I mean, they were having trouble keeping this horse sound in his races, and he always had some talent. He just buried the field in $1 million Grade 1 Manhattan. Tremendous job of the 7-year-old.
Not to cut you off, Chad Brown wound up running 1-2, won the Manhattan a year ago, and is well on his way to, for the 2nd consecutive year, becoming a finalist for Champion Trainer. The job this guy and his team does blows me away each and every racing card.
No, I think, well, everybody now, the Horse of the Year has already been settled. Trainer of the Year is going to be Bob Baffert this year, but still, these guys are delivering at a high level, and it's interesting because Chad won this race, as you say, 2 years in a row. He has a lot of turf horse success in it. That's why the next race we're going to show is such an important victory for him.
Well, we'll talk more about that. I want to get into this race. I got
Let's get on to the 3-year-olds. Another major race for the 3-year-old sprinters. Just a field of 6 due to the presence of competitive edge in Saturday's 31st, Woody Stevens.
Yeah, none of us thought competitive edge should have been 2 to 5 in this race because this was a very tough field. He doesn't break sharply, and it's a great example, Richie, of a horse. If they don't break sharply, they're behind the 8 ball the whole way. He never gets into a comfortable spot.
Yeah, this race lended to Todd Pletcher's dichotomous day. He was in behind horses.
Very good.
Getting hit with dirt. He was never comfortable. And absolutely, you know what? March, though, he delivered, huh? Because he ran through the stretch.
No, he really did. And Cinco Charlie, and Cinco Charlie was terrific in here, and he showed 7 furlongs was no problem. He runs well every time. It really looked like he was in a position to seize control of this race. Of course, he's stalking right now. They come in the stretch, and March just keeps on moving forward inside. A very good ride by Rod Ortiz, but the best thing that Rod did was get him into the game, I think.
I absolutely, to hold that position, because if he doesn't, he's going to get shuffled back, and if he has to come around, he's not going to get there.
And the other thing, you know, Richie, is with March, he won that base shore with a burst of speed in a race that had a very competitive pace up front. He came from well back. Not the same thing here. This wasn't a situation of a pace falling apart. He was right in the game, and they went 22 and 1:45, and then they went at 23 and 4/4, and he's still finishing up in just over 12 seconds. Both of these horses are laying it out in the line, and they're distancing themselves from the other horses in the race.
Yeah, and I mean, they really were streaking through the stretch, and they finished in racehorse time. And I think the point you were making with Chad Brown, you know, he's winning all these turf races, but the fact that he, you know, wins a 7-furlong dirt race, he could train any kind of horse.
Right. I mean, that's the thing you see. You saw it with Christophe last year, Christophe Clement when he won with Tonalist, and in the Belmont, and of course his other successors of the year. These guys get labeled as turf trainers. A good trainer trains the horses in his barn and does a good job with them.
We're watching the head on here. Keep your eye on Cinco Charlie's rider, Ricardo Santana. He goes to switch sticks. Watch the whip fly. Goes over his back. Wow. He flew out of his hand. And that horse was actually really responding to the whip. And I don't know that he could have run any harder, but I'm sure he feels like, boy, I wish I had hung on to it.
He is one cool horse, though. Yeah. He has taken his show on the road from his 2-year-old season up through Saturday's Woody Stevens and just continues to breathe fire and run hard every step of the way.
And to think that we have the Amsterdam and Saratoga leading to the King's Bishop to look forward to with these horses, it's just so much to look forward to. And the other thing, and I had said this on Twitter when this race came with Field 6, it's a $500,000 grade 2. People were actually skipping this race because of competitive edge. Who finished last. And maybe it was Alan Jerkins, maybe it's an old racetrack axiom. You never skip any horse race because of one horse.
No kidding.
That's what Alan Jerkins used to say. He said, you never not go in a race because of one horse.
$500,000 grade 2, and guys are staying in the barn? You've got to be kidding me.
It's a major race on the 3-year-old sprint calendar to boot, and you do wonder at this point if we'll ever see competitive edge again. Now, there were a couple of other big 3-year-old performances here on Saturday. Japan, albeit against 2 rivals, was green, but okay in the easy goer, and Tommy Macho won by a lot in the second race. That'll do it. We've hit the finish line. Great job, Mig, Andy. Again, we hope you had a terrific Belmont Stakes Day. Thank you for supporting New York racing, and thank you to American Pharoah, who was terrific in the Test of the Champion.